Yeah. I have Mercury in Sagittarius. So we're live. I'm here with Kathryn, everybody. And Kathryn is a lovely guest of mine downstairs. That's how we met. And we hit it off. And you knew we would.
I knew we would.
From what I wrote on the Airbnb blurb.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yep. Watch what people say. They're telling you who they are.
Watch what people say. They're telling you who they are. She has so much to share. I don't know what the heck we're going to be able to cover in this video. Basically, you're going to describe what you do.
Yeah.
I read a keynote speech that she wrote about, what's the title of it?
It's the DNA of awesome people.
The DNA of awesome people. So I really just want to let Kathryn talk because she's amazing. So go ahead.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Like
So
what
we
you
are
do.
live.
Yeah.
As a profession, I'm actually the head of talent for a really unique, independently owned strategy or marketing strategy firm in Toronto, Canada. And how that all came about was I've been a recruiter for many years, and because of my profession, I was able to meet thousands and thousands of people. Like literally, I couldn't even tell you how many people I've actually had the pleasure of meeting and speaking to. And over the years, I started to just really see and hear and listen for all the stuff that's going on with other human beings and how stopped we can be and all of our blocks and all of our limiting beliefs.
Right.
And it has allowed me to run people in a more effective way, I'd say, because I'm able to take all those little tricks and tips and all that stuff and really just connect with people and get that we've all got stuff we're dealing with, and we're all really unique. And one of the things that I think you're really intrigued with is limiting beliefs.
Yeah, like
sure.
you were able to talk to, she told me a story. We heard a lot of interesting things. Like we could probably go on for hours because your insights into explaining when you can tell when somebody isn't doing their thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you were telling about, like, so you're in charge of hiring people for companies. The companies would hire you to find talent, find people.
Yeah.
And she heard this one guy, I think, talk about being an engineer, right? Tell them that one.
Yeah, it's a great story. So I've always been really big into body language, right? It's telling you what's really going on. And as much as I say, listen to people say they're telling you who they are, it also, you have to watch what people do. So, and anyone out there who does hiring or who's recruiting or anything like this, these are some things you want to look for. The engineer story. So this guy I interviewed for an engineering job recently, he, I said, so tell me a bit about your job. And so he's, he's talking about his job and he's sitting there and engineering and
Head down.
great. Yeah, like he didn't seem enthusiastic about it. So I thought, all right, interesting. So I'll say his name's Joe. I said, Joe, what do you do on the weekend? And he went like this, whoop, and he lights up and he starts talking about his hobbies. And he's telling me about art. And I thought, wow. And so then I switched the topic back to engineering because I wanted to see the difference in the body language. And I said, okay, so let's go back to engineering and so tell me about a project you did and how you successfully led it. Okay, so then I switched back to, okay, and then so how does art fit into that? And then he lights up again. So one of the tricks I use when hiring is watch. You can tell when you push someone's passion button. Their eyes light up.
Right.
And that is one of the things you want to look for when you're hiring, because it'll tell you whether the person's doing something they truly love or whether it's just a job.
Right.
And when people...
Right, that's a good one. Do their eyes light up?
Yeah. Like, what is their body telling you, right? And
The energy, you can feel it.
Absolutely. And more often than not, I've actually suggested to people to really think about that. Take some time to reflect on.
So at the end of the interview, you can kind of...
I always do.
How honest of Kathryn to say, I've noticed this.
Yeah.
And she'll even guide them in the right direction or the direction she sees their energy being excited about. And then you said you tell them to come back when they're doing that thing, and you'll help them in any way that you can, which has nothing to do with her job.
No.
That's integrity. Like, that's when I was like, I like this girl, which I already knew when I met you, but I was like, that's integrity. That's somebody doing something with heart and integrity.
Yeah, you have to remember too, external recruitment. Most
You
of us
have an
are,
honest face. She has an honest face.
external recruitment. Most of us are 100% commission, so I don't get paid
Right.
if I'm not convincing engineer Joe to go and take this job that's going to make him unhappy.
Right.
I don't get paid.
Right.
So,
That
I can't
says it all to me.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the reasons why my career was as successful as it was before I went back in house and started running teams.
So now she's in-house, and this company asked her to please help them. And the goal is what? For you to be there. I know you're going to be spending 1 to 2 hours with each person
Oh God.
to find out, like, intensive interviews. Kathryn interviewed the leaders of the company to make sure it was a good fit for her.
Yeah. So at my level now, it's not about just doing, I'm not execution anymore, I'm strategy.
Right.
So, and companies hire people at our level to help take them through transformation.
Okay. Transformation, which is exactly what we turned on this video for, because Kathryn has seen what things might, if her job is to get awesome performance, right?
Yep.
Then her job is also to see if somebody's doing a job and they're not in the right thing for themselves, or if they are, what's holding them back from being their best selves, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, I read her keynote speech. I see her on TED Talks. I see her sharing a lot more so that we can benefit from her wisdom. And so, yeah, I absolutely see it. So in this keynote speech that I read, I was lucky enough to read it, and she shares her personal story as to her own limiting beliefs. And I'm hoping that it can help us, on our own, identify what ours are.
Yeah. Well, and this is a personal story, but I really believe, to Dara's point, when you share experience, other people connect with that, right? There's that vulnerable piece to it that that really, because we're all afraid. We're petrified. And especially when it comes to sharing something about ourselves, it's not how we were raised. But now there's been a huge shift. So picture this. Imagine being 18 years old and you're in your last year of high school.
Yeah.
And there's so much buzz going on in school. It's September, and everyone's excited because they're picking their college.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to go to college next year. And guidance counselors are involved, and teachers and all this stuff. And so that was happening for me. I was 18. I was in high school. And I came home, and my parents literally looked at me and went, "Oh, you want to go to university?"
Wow. Like, it's almost hard sitting here with you and your professional self. But,
Right.
wow.
And at that moment, I thought, wow. And I made whatever they said mean that I'm not smart.
Right.
It was that moment.
Wow.
And I never forgot it. And that I'm not smart feeling manifested over time into something that just had me stopped. It just blocked me. Yeah. And I wore it like a badge.
Really?
I did. And earlier...
Was it because of miscommunication, or did you have those feelings from them previously?
As it turns out, years later, we were able to talk about it, and my parents said to me, "Oh, honey, we didn't realize that it made you feel like you weren't smart. For us, we just never talked about it, and we also never saved."
Right. So for them, it was about money.
It was financial, and I didn't get it.
Right.
But, and also, my mom had dropped out in grade 11. She'll tell you that if she has to. It's not private. Her mom had passed away. So she was asked to stay at home and take care of the kids.
Wow.
And so she couldn't relate to the experience. And to her, she looked at it as people who go to university are up on this pedestal. They're privileged. They're very smart. They're different. They're not us.
Right.
That's not for us. So I think there was a bit of that as well.
Which is conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely. All this stuff is just limiting beliefs that your parents have that they then impose on you. And you go, "Oh, well, that's just true." So when you look at the way I spent my life in my 20s, I took on jobs that I knew I could succeed at and never fail. And they were not jobs that challenged me. Like, I was in advertising for 8 years, but it was stuff that, like, I could just do in my sleep.
Right.
I wasn't fulfilled. And that was intentional because I wore, in the back of my head, it was, I'm not smart, right? So don't ever put me in a position where I'm not going to feel smart. I designed my life very, very specifically to avoid that feeling. And then when I turned 30, I thought, oh man, this sucks. I'm the most unfulfilled in my career. And that's when I got into recruitment, because I knew that I needed to impact more people, because people was my thing. Yeah.
That's the word. That's why she's going to end up on TED Talk, because she needs to impact more people.
Yeah.
Your gift as a child was to observe. You always were observing people.
Yeah.
So you're using your natural gift that nobody taught you how to do.
Yeah. I was saying to Dara when I got here that when I was a little kid, my poor parents, because I would walk around and I'd say, Mommy, that lady, she's weird. Something's going on with her. Or that man, he just said something, but I don't really believe him.
Right.
Poor folks.
They're like, what? Our child.
Yeah. So I was really observant. I was a really observant person. I've been pattern matching my whole life, right? So when you watch and you see as much as someone like myself does, or an observer, you start to pattern match. I've got little tells in recruitment too, like the cup, for instance. So let's say I offer you this cup in our interview. Actually, let's say you're interviewing me and interview's done, and then I say, okay, great, nice to meet you. If I leave that cup there, that's saying a lot. It's saying
like somebody else is going to
pick up after you, and that stuff's going to show up at work.
I love that one.
Yeah, the cup tell's a good one.
Yeah. I know you're going to put that in my sink when she's done. I know that one. I know that's going in my sink. That's really funny. So, I was just talking about this with my friend Mark, is that his limiting belief is something that his father did for his own life. Like, his father was interested in safety and security, and you have the job and you have the save, and you don't do anything out of the ordinary. You do what you're supposed to do. And so Mark wants to do something completely different and is on that path, and he's gonna kind of crack off what his dad, any feeling of failure around it, or you know what I mean, or success, maybe a fear of success, I'll be flying in the face of what my dad taught me to be true, and maybe that's scary.
Huge.
Can you tell me more about that, because I was trying to understand it.
There are many reasons why people won't do certain things, and success. As my career started to take off in my early 30s, when I started doing things that I really truly cared about, and I impacted other people, money started coming, people calling you and acknowledging you, your parents saying things like, what, this is crazy. And as somebody who suffers from imposter syndrome, because I'm not smart.
Imposter syndrome.
It's imposter syndrome. I am very afraid sometimes to say, this is what I'm up to, because it just feels so crazy. I'm like,
it's so
because I'm still not it in my head. I'm actually not. I'm not the head of talent who's going to transform this company, who's going to impact all these people. I'm not that.
That's what I said to him. I go, is there some kind of feeling of being a fake in there somewhere?
Yes, you feel like a fraud.
Okay.
You do.
So how do you know if it's fear of success or fear of failure, or could it be a combo of both?
It's kind of all the same thing. I always say you're either coming from one of two places. You're coming from a place of fear, or you're coming from a place of love.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So fear of success and fear of failure to me kind of look the same for me.
They're fears.
It's just fear.
Thank you for that. I was trying to get a grasp on it last night, and and it's really, and then we got to love. I was like, but they respected academia, and that was their model of success. But that's not what God or universe or spirit gave. God gave you handsome looks and a huge heart and the ability to inspire people. And so we talked about what Lacey Phillips talks about, free and native, is finding an expander, somebody who does what you didn't grow up seeing. You know what I mean? So we found some for him so that he could see a model of how it's done, and maybe that suits him better than his own dad.
Definitely. What did you call it? You called it patch parenting?
There was a book once written called Patchwork Mom.
Patchwork Mom.
So wherever there was a deficit in your own mother, you find someone and you patch together pieces of women that model what you would have liked to have had.
This just occurred to me right now. My mom always says to me, boy, I don't know where you came from. And I know that has to do with, at a very young age, I surrounded myself with my friends' parents, because I felt like there were things that were missing, or I would watch how they would interact and they would talk to each other, and I wanted that. I was craving that acknowledgement. I was craving that those intelligent conversations, or not that my parents and I wouldn't have intelligent conversations, but conversations that really like I could relate to on a people level or whatever it was. And my mom always says that, boy, I don't know where you came from.
Right.
And I think that might be part of it, right? Like naturally you just start, I think you start to move towards certain people, or people start to notice you when you're being your true self, right? So I was at a restaurant last night and I'm sitting at the bar, and that's actually me in my element. That is me in my truest, being my truest self. And I attracted people
because you're traveling alone.
I attracted the same
brave
kind of people.
Like a true Sagittarius, and she sat there just attracting little miracle people, big miracle people.
Yeah, well, like attract like.
Yes.
Like attract like, yes. Just like hiring. Be careful with that. Don't always hire like.
Don't always hire the people who can do what you.
Oh, please don't.
So what I feel is going to happen, actually, the more you do your speeches and the more you care to share, I would love to do split screen sharing with you, because I know you're going to be in Toronto, although whenever you're here we could do it in person. But I do feel like there's a lot you can share about helping people to just, get past that point. Like, we all have it. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. You know what I mean?
Even the 5 partners that I work with have it. The toughest part of my job is how do I convey what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing that they might not want to know, or deal with.
Right. That takes delicacy.
And and for any of you out there who care about this stuff, founder market fit is everything. The folks, the CEOs and the founders who start companies, those companies' limiting beliefs are the limiting beliefs the CEO or the founder puts on themselves.
Right.
Where that company is stopped is where the heads are stopped.
Right. I mean, I always say whoever's throwing the party is the energy of the person who started the party.
Totally.
Well, so like whoever started that company, that's what's going on there. The great things and the limiting. So how do people, in a nutshell, start taking a look at themselves and to go, where am I blocking myself? Is you have any
that's a heavy question.
I know, it's a hard question, and maybe it could just be food for thought and we can reconvene on it later.
I can tell you my journey has been, I've enrolled myself in a bunch of different professional and personal development.
Good, okay.
Tons and tons and tons. I just decided that was it. I was so sick of being stuck. And it's a feeling you have, right? So go do something about it. Read books. The internet's amazing, but actually go and read books if you can. I was never a reader. I think I've had finished like 6 books by the time I turned 30, and that's it. Now I'm just like this avid reader.
About self-advancement. I don't want to say self-help. It sounds so awful, like you're sitting in a corner crying. Really, your self-advancement book, upwardly mobile and breaking through barriers. Sometimes we know, and I've felt it in my life, and each time I'm not climbing up and I stop at a plateau, I'm like, what's stopping me from the next step? What's the bubble that's over, what's the cap over me? What is that cap that's over the ceiling of me going to the next space? So this is food for thought for me as well. Self-empowering books, that's right. So
great language, It's the same. So I'd say that. Also, say yes to conversations that scare you.
Oh.
Always.
Like confronting things?
Whenever you feel like you want to say no, it's an area you need to say yes in. So say yes more.
Oh.
Go and have the conversations with the people that scare you. That's where you're going to learn. That's where you're actually holding yourself back. There's something there that's saying, I don't want to have that conversation because I'm not X.
Yeah.
I'm not enough. I'm not smart. I'm not pretty. I'm not wealthy. I'm not anything. I'm not something. Go and say yes to stuff that you don't want to. That is where your breakthroughs will happen.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so also pay attention to the languaging. Notice the negative threads that run through. Like, I'm not pretty, I'm not happy, I'm not smart, I'm not enough, I'm too fat, I'm too this. Take it, honor those negative words. Like, some people just think they should just ignore them, brush over them. But actually, I think that they're great food for thought to go, okay, that is popping up. And you can say to that part of yourself, okay, I hear you. You're worried that I'm going to get hurt, but I got this. And I'm saying yes anyway. And you can take that negative thought that you keep noticing that comes up and turn it into a positive affirmation and just be like, okay, in the past I have felt this to be true. But I'm fascinated with this limiting beliefs and accessing your highest performance. And part of the biggest thing I would think is breaking past the beliefs that we were conditioned, which is why we're going to talk about human design. Because you do this naturally. You've been watching people, you know how to put people in the right department or the right place for them or the right job. And so human design is a way to do that. For those of you who haven't spent years honing your skills like Kathryn has, you've spent years doing
unintentionally
this and talking with people and really, I mean, I would love to know about body language or what you thought when you met me or what you read in my Airbnb. So what did you think? And you can be honest.
Yeah, so you're writing. So I always look for people who share, right? Because sharing is being vulnerable. And so in your description for your Airbnb, you had written up such an amazing, you thought about the other person. It wasn't about you and making money. I could tell. It was about wanting to create an experience for folks who were coming here.
Yeah.
I thought that was so rad. And I read all the things you were saying, and I'm like, man, she's really put a lot of thought into what would make a difference for somebody. That's like really selfless. So I picked up a selfless vibe from you right away.
That's what the energy of which I do the Airbnb. I'm like, what's going to make them comfortable? What's going to feel good? And if they're sitting, I do that. Like, are they going to have Mountain Valley spring water so they don't have to worry about getting water when they arrive? And you got that. So that was a good read.
Yep. So I did get that. And then, you were following up a bunch before I even got here. And I thought that was really thoughtful. It made me feel really comfortable. And then the night I get here, we end up,
Yeah, I was like, I felt like, well, you also made yourself vulnerable because you said, oh, I'd like to meet you, or will you be around? Because some people I know when they just want to sneak in and be private, and then you weren't demanding or anything. You're like, I'd like to say hi, I arrived at this time. So you arrived, I gave you a hug, you went in, and then I was like, hey, do you want to come over and hang out with Vicky and I? We're having a glass of wine. And we ended up having like giggles and sharing information, and it was really, really nice. So it's saying yes when you might otherwise stick to yourself.
Exactly. So I will be honest, don't think that the thought didn't cross my mind to not.
Right.
Because it does take something to go
Yeah,
into
you're
your
sitting
home.
there with one of my oldest friends. Like, what am...
Right.
Yeah, like...
Right.
Yeah.
And I had only seen her very briefly, and woman to woman, she's very beautiful and a little intimidating. And you can tell, Vicky is.
She is.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, do I want to have to deal with that in my head? Like that I'm not enough. I swear to God, this is what was going on in my head. Yeah. Now, met her, was like, what a dream machine.
Right?
Unbelievable woman. Love her. I wish that she had come back and I had seen her again. But this is what it's like being in Kathryn Ducey's world.
But you're verbalizing things you're verbalizing things that we would think and wouldn't say. My daughter does that. She's a Sagittarius like you. Yeah. And I have Mercury in Sagittarius, so I'm like, give it to me straight. So when I hang up, because she probably wouldn't say, but I will ask her for feedback as to my body language or what I can do better for the Airbnb or what she sees in me. I'll probably do it off camera because she's very, you're diplomatic and polite. But you were not. So you could say right now if there was something
about your Airbnb,
me or me personally, or what you, if there's any intuition you could see on where I'm holding myself back. I would love to know where I feel like I have work to do. You know when you're like interested in something and you're like, I must need it. It's like I'm thirsty for understanding what you said a couple of things like, do you think you're worthy for having a show? Or did you pick up on that? Like maybe I don't feel
I did. Well, again, you want to listen to what people say. So you had mentioned that other people were doing this and this and on their shows, and I thought, she thinks that's the way it's supposed to be and that she doesn't have all those things yet. So you're waiting to have all those things before you do what you want to do, and it's like you're gonna wait forever then. It's never gonna be perfect.
Did you ever feel like, I think what it is that I feel like, I don't want to say ahead of my time, but a little bit more like what I do hasn't really been done. What I want to do hasn't been done before. So there is no particular model, and the old model doesn't fit for me.
Yeah.
So
which I think takes a lot of courage to do what works for you.
Right. Like I don't want to put myself in the old box of the way of doing things. So I have to create a new path. I'm going to create a new path.
Yeah. Someone might come to you and say, hey, you've got this great business idea, so where's your business plan? And you say, I don't have one. This has happened to me before, and I've said, I
Right.
don't have a business plan. And they say, oh, well, you have to have a business plan because X, Y, and Z. And then I get so freaked out about it, and then I say, no, I'm not a business plan person. I'm doing great,
Right.
thank you. It's fine.
Right.
See?
Right, like I have everything I need. You
do.
can look
You
on
have all the
YouTube.
tools.
You can look on. We're gonna like tighten it up a bit and use beautiful words that are current, because maybe some of the old words on my website are just about raw food and they don't have decluttering in there, and feng shui and sharing people who are doing things with heart. So I'm thinking of the words. I'm gonna help people to just make it more palatable so that they can.
Yep.
It has to be a story. Like you wrote your
Totally.
keynote speech. You have all these feelings and all these years of intuition and experience, and it's our job. That's not, you don't do a business plan, but your keynote speech is like a new wave business plan. Does that make sense?
It absolutely, and I think if anyone out there, check out Speaker Labs in Toronto. They're a terrific
Speaker Labs.
two guy workshop or
Mhm.
company. Shout out to you guys, Eric and Eli.
I want to come see you.
They're amazing,
I wanna-
and they teach how, and it's so true. It's not what you say; it's how you make people feel. So who said that? Who was the woman who said that?
Jenna, our human design lovey.
And then it was also the woman who Oprah loves. Can't remember her name right now. But it's not what you say; it's how you make people feel. And
Mhm.
Dara, you have that gift.
Yeah.
So who cares about any of the rest of the stuff?
Like how it's formatted or
Who cares?
anything. Just keep doing what I do.
No one's gonna remember that.
Mhm.
They're gonna remember how you made them feel.
I guess what it is I want to put it in a place where it can reach more people. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to have it somehow go from our small YouTube family and Facebook family to reach more of us. So I always thought you have to present it in a certain way. Does that
Got
make
it.
sense?
You're doing all the right things.
I'm doing all the right things.
You're doing all the right things.
Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou, thank you.
What is that? What you were
I couldn't
thinking
remember
of?
her name.
That's awesome. We have like
Yeah.
a great support team here. You haven't read these comments, but if you guys want, so when Kathryn's done, it's wonderful to be watching two successful ladies. It's blurry. Everybody's all happy with each other. We already did a video this morning. She's having her first tonic, and she doesn't really know what tonics are, but she's having one. She's going to feel so good, and I will tell you what's in it. So please, what you would do, you guys, because once this video is over, since it's live, we can't read the live comments. We can read the comments you post after. So if you have any questions or suggestions, or you want to say how much you love Kathryn because she's so awesome, and I hope to do more. Like I really feel like we all can benefit from this. It feels very new. It feels like it's new to be vulnerable. It's new to be vulnerable, especially in the business world that you're in. It's like you're breaking new ground, I think. Talk about human resources before we get cut off from low battery. Like, she was like, human resources is
The spirit
not...
killers. I'm so nothing against anybody on here who is in human
There
resources.
could be spirited human resource people,
Absolutely,
but
because
the
I'm one of
system,
them.
right?
Yeah, we call them the spirit killers. And nothing worse than you've got a company who now they're at 30 people and they bring in an HR team, and suddenly everything feels really icky.
Weird.
And there's all these weird conversations behind closed doors, and everyone's very robotic. And the term human resources is so not human, it's almost comical. So I am myself and a lot of, my peers and colleagues in Canada and in the US, we're trying to put the human back in human resources.
Put the human back in human resources so that there can be companies and they can be heart-based and beautiful and high performance. That's the idea.
You can actually fire somebody and have a conversation with them that brings you both to tears.
Right.
And they walk away thinking, that was the right decision. I'm glad the company did that.
Right? Like, thank goodness.
On my behalf.
Right.
I
Well,
do it all the
it's
time.
really how it should be, because the universe is telling them, like, this is not your path.
Yeah.
And you actually are being a conduit for what some people don't see right away. They feel poor me or victimized or like, oh, life sucks. But it's really like a huge blessing to go in the direction, just like dis-ease or hurting yourself or getting fired or having a breakup. It's to lead you into the direction you were meant to be. And that's what all of this that I do. Raw food isn't everything. It's the first thing. What we eat, we have control over fueling ourselves. decluttering and detoxifying our bodies so we can hear our own hearts to hear what we're supposed to do, then decluttering our homes to support who we are, and then connecting with people, vibrating at a level where somebody like Kathryn's going to come and be like, yeah, I would love to hang out with you. And then you raise your vibration a little higher, your next level of being. You're hearing things that are like, this is something that I must, when you're ready, the teacher appears. And I'm like, you're taking something that most people feel like maybe it's intuition, or they can't really you're putting words to things that you've observed with your mad skills. It's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
So my theory, and you guys can mark this, is that Kathryn will probably, what I feel like this is like, you're going to put your heart and soul into bringing this beautiful company who invited her in. Like, they sought her out. They said, please work with us. What do you think? Like, finally, they're like, okay, what's your answer? So that lets me know that
and then I cried.
You were
in front of the
discerning,
president.
but you also cried because you're like, this feels like this can be home. And she gets to interview, and it's going to be a lot of work to talk to and interview each person at the company, do this whole beautiful thing with them, and she will be able to help other companies and help other people in a large scale. Like when you said, I forget the exact words, it needs to be bigger, or I need to reach more people.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd say. I'm of the belief, go and do things that are bigger than you. Go and do things that are bigger than you. Just like say yes to stuff that scares the hell out of you.
Yes.
Say yes to that conversation that scares you. Go and do stuff that's bigger than you. My 20s was spent living life small. I was living really small to make sure that I never made a mistake and didn't have to admit that I wasn't smart.
What was the turning point? Like,
actually,
the turning point. Know that about yourself? Like,
the turning point was when I was working for a telecom company called Rogers in Canada, one of the biggest, and the HR team had asked me if I would help them recruit. And I was a project manager on a sales team. I had nothing to do with recruitment. I had nothing to do with HR. And my eyes lit up. I remember that moment.
Like, oh.
And they asked me because I was born and raised in Toronto and my network was big. They didn't ask me because they thought I'd be a good recruiter.
Okay. Oh.
And I hit the ground running and developed a process to do it. I didn't just go and think about who I knew. I actually went and thought about, okay, so what are the questions I would ask this person? How would I find them? LinkedIn was just becoming a thing. This probably would have been 7, 8 years ago. So at the end of the process, I ended up presenting HR with 4 candidates. They met them all. They hired 2 of them. 2 of them, one has moved on to Facebook and one of them has moved on to Twitter now. So great, really, really like high performing people. And at the end of the process, I said to them, I think we're onto something. I'd like to join the HR team. And they looked at me and said, oh, no. Go back to doing your gig.
Okay. Here you are, that the universe, just like the universe fires you so you can move on, the universe hired you so you could see your path. That's great.
I resigned the next week.
Because you knew it felt good.
And it was the first time in my life that I'd ever been in an interview where I wasn't just blowing smoke up people's butts. Right. I went and I interviewed at 10 different executive search firms.
You did.
And I was like, I don't know what's going on right now, but I just am onto something. Hire me. I know it's going to be great. Wow. I'd never said anything with such conviction ever in my life.
I believe because she's doing the gift that she had ever since she was little, and looking at people and going, that one's kind of off, and that one's this, and you have that in you, and you're using something that nobody could say you don't have because you have it.
Yeah. And
this is so cool.
Just one last little point.
Yeah.
My parents ran a retail store in Toronto. They were in customer service. And when I was born, my mom, she had to bring me into the store. And she put me in a playpen. And I was 6 weeks old. And so from a very, we're talking Dara, I was very young.
Yeah. And
I was lying there and I was watching. So I owe a lot to my family. I believe it also is innate, but I believe a lot of this was created.
Yeah. It could be restaurants. You could go to that restaurant where the hostess wasn't that kind to you. You could sort them out. Restaurants, corporations.
I think about this all the time. Get out of my head. I would love to redesign restaurants.
I feel like restaurants are going to be a thing of yours.
Customer
service.
Oh my God, you're such a great listener.
I think I'm just an intuitive. I hear, I don't know. Am I a good listener? That's
phenomenal.
Really? I don't know.
No, it's one of your superpower.
I hear the things you're right. I heard when you talked about the restaurant and how you were like, I left because I didn't like how they were, and I was like, that's just.
Mhm.
You could so easily go in and be like, this was my experience. This is what I see. Love you all. Because she's not judgmental. She's not like, they suck, they should go. It's like, I could help. Maybe that person wouldn't be right at the door. Or, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it just may not be. Or perhaps she's overwhelmed and stressed because something else is coming towards her.
I was met with her fear.
Yeah. It's an overwhelming place. The place that you went to that's top of the line food, it's booked, it's a little, the feng shui of it, look, she's got people behind her back, and she sees who's coming in the door, but there's stuff going on behind her back, and there's a lot of swirling energy. I always felt like I could fix the feng shui of restaurants, because there's a thing to that. It's a good restaurant, it's too bad, but
Maybe that'll be our next project. Oh my goodness. Anyway,
because it's got to be comfortable so that people don't have the fear that someone's going to surprise them up their back and coming at them, and
and that all starts at the top.
it's at the top, yeah.
So it's not like you can't
Well,
go in
I
there
know
and
the
fix the
owner
front.
of that
You
restaurant.
fix the
Actually,
top.
I just ran into him last week, and he owns Jolena and the place you went to, MTN, and Justa, and he starts restaurants all over, and they're very good at style, but they may need a little bit of help in that department. So
it.
we can approach them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm so glad I got to share Kathryn. I just literally threw this at her, but I knew that if she intends to do TED Talks, I'm like, how she won't have a problem being here speaking with us.
No, I am petrified of getting up on stage.
Me too.
I'm working with Eric and
Me
Eli
too.
right now at Speaker Labs. Oh, I had no idea how scared I was.
Yeah.
Because you're up there and all you're thinking of, you're just picturing all these like tigers in the audience who are out to get you.
Judgers. You think there's judgers.
Yeah.
You think there's judgers like sitting there going, what's she talking about? Oh my God, she's shifting, or she's nervous.
Or I don't agree with what she's saying.
Or I don't agree with what.
I actually
See,
don't
I never
agree.
think about that.
I think about that.
Really?
Oh my God, that's all I'm thinking about because I'm not smart.
Okay, I would
Right?
never see. That's like, it's completely not true. So if you have that thought, you should text me because I'll be like, that's like not even true. Like I could see them thinking, oh my God, Dara's nervous. Oh my God, now I feel nervous. But you,
Yes.
like, I don't want them. I remember doing a speech in high school, and my hand was shaking, and like